League Two playoff final, bank holiday Monday at Wembley, Wimbledon and Walsall, but only one W up for grabs. And only one spot in League One up for grabs. For Wimbledon, it would be a return. They were relegated 3 years ago after keeping their head above water for a few seasons in League One. For Walsall, their relegation from League One came in 2019. They have found it very tough to turn the ship around. Not higher than 11th place until this season, where, very famously, they led League Two by 12 points. They did not win League Two. They did not finish second in League Two. They did not finish third in League Two. They finished fourth in League Two, with Wimbledon in fifth, having suffered a smaller but still significant drop-off from a position of strength in the automatic promotion battle. George, this is absolutely dripping with interest from a club point of view, from a fan feeling point of view, from a managerial point of view as well. There's so much at stake for both teams and so many individuals within both clubs.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a broken record on this, but it does. I've never really seen a game where perception and, in my mind, kind of reality are so different. Where, when the final whistle blew in both Walsall and Wimbledon season, accusations and frustration was levelled at both teams and both managers for throwing away winning positions and throwing away dominant positions, especially in Walsall's case. And pre-season expectations, budgets seem to kind of get forgotten. And I still think, regardless of the ways in which they got here, and I think both of their performances in the playoff semi-finals were unbelievably impressive. The way that they both got ahead away from home and then managed the game at home. And that's managed in a way that isn't, we're going to defend for our lives. That is, Walsall controlled the game in their own way. AFC Wimbledon absolutely controlled the game in the second half, having gone ahead in the second leg. I still just think that both managers, Matt Sadler and Johnnie Jackson, they're by no means faultless. And clearly they would stick their own hands up and say, yeah, we had opportunities to end this before now. But I think they've done a lot more good than bad this season. And I'm happy that, having both come under severe pressure and criticism, one of them will have their day in the sun come Monday, albeit quite a nasty forecast. And I just really hope that whoever is worse off, once the emotion subsides, whether it's Walsall fans or Dons fans, and those who control who own the club, can look at the bigger picture and see the clear progress. It feels like both teams are very much on the upward curve in terms of where the club is headed under these managers, and so the plug shouldn't be pulled on either.
They both finished the season with a plus 21 goal difference, which is quite neat. Achieved in very different ways. Walsall were the league's top goal scorers. Wimbledon, by miles, were the league's best defence. Both of them, as you say, very impressive in playoff semi-finals. Both of them with managers looking to achieve their first promotions in what are nascent young managerial careers, and a career where having a promotion on your CV is still probably, despite the rise of other ways of making managerial decisions and head coach hires, is probably still the strongest currency. That and good data, which frankly both of them absolutely have in abundance this season as well. But also on the pitch, the way that they look to attack is not identical, but is still broadly in the same ballpark. The way they look to defend is not identical, but is still broadly in the same ballpark. They both play with three centre-backs for Walsall. I'd be expecting that to be Williams, Okabu and Taylor Allen. Now, the funky bit of Walsall's back three is that Taylor Allen plays at left centre-back, but in possession he has licence to do a sort of Chris Wilder-esque overlapping centre-back job. It's not really overlapping. He will spend time out wide, and he will sling in crosses from the deep left areas, and he's very good at that. But he will step into central midfield areas as well to help Walsall overload those areas. It was really effective against Chesterfield, where one of their goals in particular came where he stepped into midfield. They had a massive numbers advantage and were able to play forward into Chesterfield's box and get the goal. Wimbledon also play with 3 centre-backs. The 3 that they started with in both semi-finals, Harbottle, Lewis and Johnson, are a little less adventurous in possession. Harbottle does contribute to the attack because he's got a massive long throw, and that is something that they do look to use. But otherwise, these guys are centre-backs, first and foremost. They're not really ball players. Lewis is the one that plays a lot of really good, they almost feel like rugby-style punts forward. And they got a goal in the second leg against Notts County when one of them was misjudged and Neufeld ran onto it and scored. So Lewis is the one that plays a lot of long passes forward for Wimbledon. And then in front of them, the wing-backs are important for both teams. Asimwe and Gordon for Walsall are both pretty solid all-rounders, I would say. Both of them tidy on the ball. They see a lot of the ball. Walsall do funnel it out wide quite a lot, and quite often the onus is on those players to find a little bit of space and get a cross into Jamil Matt inside the box. When it comes to Wimbledon, Tilly and Neufeld, both of them have some really impressive attacking skill sets. Neufeld, speed, very, just blows by opposition fullbacks and wing-backs, gets to the byline, where his delivery can be a bit hit and miss, but he's been Wimbledon's best player over the course of the season. Very, very impressive. And Tilly as well has a fantastic left foot. His delivery has actually not been as good as I would have expected when I've watched them over the last few months, but has so much quality within his left peg that can come up with a great moment, a great cross into the box, and a big source of creativity for Wimbledon. And then in midfield, it's looking a little bit different, where Walsall basically play a box, so it'll be Chang and Stirk probably. The deeper midfield too. Stirk's an important player for them, and has been all season as a kind of midfield recycler, operator. No fireworks from Stirk, but someone who kind of knits the team all together in certain ways. And then 2 behind the striker, which is something that's kind of been newish recently, rather than 2 up top. George Hall, who's a really talented young player, Birmingham City Academy graduate. He's played England youth levels. He's just had a really tough time with injuries over the last few years, but has come into the Walsall side in the last few weeks of the season and looks fit and looks kind of electric, and I think it's a really interesting, maybe under the radar name here. Jamie Jealous on the other side's had a really impressive season, tailed off a little bit as the team did, but is capable of big moments too. And then Jamil Matt, the big striker. Whereas Wimbledon, their big striker Omar Bougil looks like he'll be out for this game. Didn't make it for the playoff semi-final, got injured in training between the 2 legs, and that's a big miss for them. They will go with Stevens up top, and I think Marcus Brown playing off him as well, which I think is kind of interesting because Marcus Brown had 2 1-on-1s against Notts County, is really, really quick, just like George Hall. And I think both of them will be trying to make sort of runs from deep in behind and try and break the offside trap. It is a real area of interest for me, both Brown and Hall in behind. Brown didn't look very comfortable with his 1-on-1s, but I think his speed in behind is very notable here. Matty Stevens scored a lot of goals for Wimbledon this season, but not many over the last couple of months. Been a little bit out of nick, it's fair to say. And their midfield of Reeves, Smith and Hippolyte, who's made that spot his own in the last couple of weeks, gives you a little bit of everything as well. Bit of ball playing if need be, but also a lot of tenacity. And in Hippolyte and Smith, they have guys that can impact the game in the final third, even if they're not unbelievable goal threats. They're both offer threats in different ways. So a lot of ways, George, where I think these 2 teams are broadly pretty similar, have broadly the same sort of strengths, and not that many obvious weaknesses when they're both playing quite well. That's why I think it's going to be a really, really tight game, and I'd be surprised if there's more than a goal in it here and there. But I know that you don't necessarily see it entirely that way, which I'm pleased about, because frankly, I would rather watch a goals fest.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, as with all playoff finals, there's every chance that it could be pretty dull and dour in terms of neither team wanting to blink first. But it's just something about the way the Walsall approached the game, where they were 2-0 up from the first leg, and the way that AFC Wimbledon approached the game, where they already 1-0 up from the first leg, that leads me to think that both teams are going to be relatively proactive. Now, that doesn't mean expansive passing liquid football, but I think it means a real energy out of possession, and that's often what's lacking in these playoff finals. We often see teams really retreat into their shell, and I just don't see it with these 2. Having achieved significant results over the 2 playoff semi-final legs, being aggressive, I'd be really surprised if we saw them shift in terms of playing style. Both games were quite end-to-end. They by no means controlled it in terms of the opposition not creating chances themselves. They defended well. But yeah, I think this could be I know it would go against the grain for how their seasons have gone, but I think there might be a bit more spice to this than we may think.
That would be very exciting. I kind of hope so. Set pieces, you just have to mention in any playoff final preview that they can be the decider in tight games. Walsall scored the joint most set piece goals in League Two this season. Got plenty from corners. Taylor Allen's delivery immense. He scores direct free kicks as well. 10 goals for the season for Allen. Plus 5 from Okabu and Williams combined. So 15 goals from their centre-backs in the regular season is a hell of a tally. Wimbledon have an interesting one where everything about them suggests they should be really good from set pieces. But they've actually scored 14 in the regular season, so 8 less than Walsall and just under league average, which is 15. And it extends to their centre-backs where, like, Harbottle scored a header in the playoff semi-final first leg against Notts. That wasn't hugely surprising. Lewis is pretty strong, physical, aerially dominant defensively. Johnson the same. But there's something about those guys where inside the box they don't seem to be able to translate that into goals. And maybe the answer is they're just getting unlucky and shots that might have gone in have been blocked or well saved. And maybe the case is that a Lewis or a Johnson might step up and get a goal here. But, you know, Walsall have actually both teams have very good records defending from set pieces. So although I think with games like this there's always a chance that set piece goal can define the game. Again, both teams actually have done a lot of diligent defending defensively from those and will be, understandably incredibly upset if that is what decides it. All this, George, leads me to a score prediction of 0-0, which I don't feel great about.
No goal scorer.
No goal scorer, 0-0, penalties. In the interest of picking a team to win on penalties, I would go towards Wimbledon. I think they, just based on who I think will finish the game for them, will have better options, and I think they have the better goalkeeper. Owen Goodman versus Tommy Simkin, both talented young goalkeepers. Simkin England under 21s squads on loan from Stoke, and Goodman on loan from Crystal Palace, having just an absolutely sparkling season and will be certainly seen as a starting number one, I've no doubt, in League One or potentially even the Championship next season. So just for those reasons, I'll lean towards Wimbledon winning on penalties. When it comes to the betting markets and AK Bet's pricing of the game, what do you think represents the best value here?
I'm siding with Walsall. I'm surprised that AFC Wimbledon are favourites. I think we may have seen Walsall return to at least close to how good they were early in the season, and I think they'll be buoyed. And frankly, their tailspin should now be forgotten. So I'm going to back them to win the game in 90 at 2-1 and to win 2-0 at 7-2. Again, because we've seen Dons for quite a lot of the season struggle in terms of goal scoring output, and when Walsall are at their best, they give very little away. So they're my two selections: Walsall 2-1 with AK Bets to win a 90 and to win 2-0 at 7-2.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and comment your score predictions and make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got similar previews for League One and for the Championship as well on the channel. Cheers and go well.